Yeah, you can give us. But with that, we can't use.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swaya Rupa Vadamayam Tadanti Swam Padantikam Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Sarasvati Deve Gaudavani Pracharane Nivashesha Sunyavadi Pashchata Deshatale Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare
Param Vijayate, Shri Krishna Sankirtan Ki
Jai.
Srila Prabhupada Ki
Jai.
Hare Krishna. Today is known in the Vaishnava calendar, or the calendar of the devotees of Lord Krishna, Lord Vishnu, and all the incarnations of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Today is known as the most blessed event, the most blessed event. And when you consider that yesterday, less than 14 hours ago, 15 hours ago, we were celebrating Shri Krishna Janmashtami, we can understand that when this event is listed as the most blessed event, that is an incredibly powerful statement, because it means that it is more blessed than Janmashtami. It is more blessed than Gopal. In one sense, from a Vaishnava theological point of view, these statements are what we refer to as Achinta Veda Veda Tattva, that they're simultaneously one and different, meaning that we sometimes say that Narada Muni was the best devotee of Lord Krishna, but then we also say that Srimati Radharani is the best devotee of Lord Krishna. Then we also say that Srila Prabhupada is the best devotee of Lord Krishna. So there is an element of that, simultaneous one and difference, but the main point to take away is the title of the most blessed event, we can understand how important this occasion is. And in addition to that, just to emphasize the point even more, this personality, who is right beside me here, to my right-hand side, to the left as you look, this extraordinary personality, aside from what I say every year, we would not be gathered here today if it was not for this person. Actually, myself and Manu were just having a brief chat yesterday evening. We purchased this property for ISKCON in 2016, so 9 years ago, something like that. Devotees first set foot on the island of Ireland. Devotees first set foot, as far as we can historically understand. It's accurate, it's pretty accurate. They first set foot on Irish soil in 1973. 1973. But this actually is the first property temple that we have ever owned on behalf of ISKCON in Ireland, in Dublin in particular. The only property we've owned. So we were having that conversation yesterday, myself and Manu. And nothing happens without the sanction of the Supreme. We are not the tourists. You know, we just Krishna will just channel through us to do certain things, but we ourselves have no independent power or independent ability to act outside of that arrangement of Lord Krishna's. Actually, I was having this conversation with Satish as well. By the way, we'd just like to say a big thank you to Satish. He's here for the weekend. He came for Janmashtami, but he came all the way from Cork. So a big endeavour he made, and in addition to that, without his help, we wouldn't be having the Rath Yatras down in Cork. So a big thank you to Satish and welcome to Dublin. Okay, great. You'll probably be able to understand the Dublin accent a little better than the Cork accent, you know. At least it's easier for me. The first time I went to Cork, I thought I was going on a different planet. You know? It was like, okay, so yeah, we have no independent ability to do things outside of the authority and mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But at the same time, taking that into account, there were just 2 or 3 devotees really that were kind of responsible for making sure that we purchased this property 35 years after devotees first started preaching Krishna consciousness or encouraging people to take the Krishna consciousness in their lives. But the key thing that we were discussing last night was that why did we do that? Those devotees, by the way, were identifying, because it was a conversation between me and Manabu, were identifying that we were 2 of those 3. The other one was the lady that you just saw coming and giving me the keys, actually, Goloka. Because a lot of the ability to get this place was done through the running of restaurants that we had in other places at the time that financed it, etc. But anyway, the key point was that myself and Manu were discussing was, but why did we do that? Why did we do that? Why did someone, you know, someone in Crumlin or someone in Clontarf or somebody in, you know, wherever, why did they not do it? Why was it that myself and Manu did it? The only reason that we did it was because of Srila Prabhupada. That was the only reason that we did it. Thank you. So the only reason that we did that was because of Srila Prabhupada. We wouldn't do it, you know, we wouldn't have done that for our own families. Like literally we would not have done that. I won't get into all the details of the struggles and the efforts to achieve it. It's a big story. We should write a book about it actually. But so I won't get into that. But the point I just want to make is we would not have made that sacrifice on behalf of anybody else other than Srila Prabhupada. So although Srila Prabhupada left us physically in 1977, it is still through his mercy and his agency that ISKCON continues to expand and grow. Even though some devotees came to Ireland in 1973, Srila Prabhupada himself, he physically left in 1977. He never set foot in Ireland himself, he never came to Ireland. Yet now, however, 48, 77, whatever that is, 77, 50, 48 years, 48 years since Srila Prabhupada left. Now we have here in Dublin, we have our island up in Innisrath, we have our temple in Belfast, we have our fledgling centre in Cork. Well, you were also there. Oh, right, sorry, I'm mixing you up with the other time. Okay. Oh yes, him there. Yeah. You actually look like you could be brothers, you know, in another life. Anyway, okay. Oh, we're doing this one. So none of that existed, but it's all now existing as a result of the mercy of A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. So this day that we say is the most blessed event is the birthday, the appearance day of Prabhupada. And yes, the other point I want to make, and I nearly forgot to mention it, is as the term the most blessed event wasn't specifically given to Srila Prabhupada, it's given to the day of the Vyasa Puja, or the appearance day of the spiritual master. But in the context of Srila Prabhupada, it's even more applicable because he is not just a spiritual master, He is actually the founder Acharya of a worldwide Vaishnava movement, which is known as ISKCON, the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. So in that sense, it is even more applicable to Srila Prabhupada than any other spiritual master or any other guru like that. And then the other incredible thing is that Srila Prabhupada appeared the day after Lord Krishna appeared. This is a unique thing. And that's why we have this 2-day festival. The first day is Janmashtami, celebrating the appearance of Lord Krishna, and then celebrating the appearance of one of his foremost devotees, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. So it's incredible, it's unique, it's amazing, and I just wanted to emphasize that as much as I possibly could. Now what I'm going to do is every year, and actually it's a service that I'm involved in as it happens, every year ISKCON produces a book in glorification of Srila Prabhupada, the Vyasa Puja book. So we sent the link out about a week ago. We completed it about a week ago and sent the link out, so I'm sure many of you have seen it. And that's what I have in front of me now. So there were two things that I wanted to do. I wanted to read a few of the offerings in this book. And what I decided to do was choose the offerings of a couple of senior devotees who've actually visited Ireland in the recent past. So devotees like Yavananda Maharaj, who was here for Rath Yatra. He wasn't able to come to Cork, but he was here for Dublin and Belfast. And also a devotee, Janardhan Maharaj, who's kind of based in Delhi, but he's originally from the Philippines, that part of the world. So I'm going to read a couple of offerings like that. But I also wanted to talk a little bit also, and maybe I'll intersperse this throughout the offerings, about the predictions in Shastra, Shastra meaning sacred scripts and sacred texts. So the predictions that are in Shastra about the appearance of Srila Prabhupada. And it's interesting because those predictions do not name the person, but they describe what this person will do and where they will come from and those kind of things. So in one sense, the predictions could apply to anybody, but when somebody then fulfills the predictions, that's the evidence to show that this is the specific person that they apply to. Now, they could also apply to other personalities if those other personalities do those same things. But yes, we'll just go through some of those. So, and then the other idea is, when I say interspersed throughout the offerings, so the other idea is that we want to request everyone here today, without twisting your arm, but still, we want to request everyone today to say a few words of appreciation to Srila Prabhupada on his appearance there. Even, as I say every year, even if it's just a simple thank you. Thank you, Srila Prabhupada. So I'll ask different devotees to come forward once we get going. So the first reference that, or prediction if you like, that I want to refer to is something from the Tiruvayamoli, which was spoken by one of the Namalvars. I don't know how many of you are from South India or originally come from South India, but you'll be familiar with the Namalvars. And this is in the, as I say, the Tiruvayamoli, and it's in the Divya Prabandha section of that scripture. And this is what the Namalvar says. He says, "Victory, victory, victory. I behold something wonderful." By the way, this was spoken many hundreds, if not actually more than 1,000 years ago that this was spoken. So it's a long, long time ago. Srila Prabhupada came from India to America in 1965. So this was spoken literally, centuries, many, many centuries before Srila Prabhupada started that journey. Victory, victory, victory. I behold something wonderful. All the inauspiciousness of the living entities is destroyed. No one is going to hell. Yamara, by the way, I just want to, just in case, I'm not sure if there's anybody in the room that may not be so familiar with the Vaishnava tradition, but And I feel compelled to say this because I personally come from a Christian background, so I'm very familiar with the concept of eternal hell, which was always a very disturbing concept to me as a teenager growing up, Anyway, eternal hell. There is no such thing as eternal hell. There is no such thing. And a simple analogy to give is that, and the Christians also accept this, by the way, that God is all merciful. We have this not understanding, this factual statement throughout Shastra. God is all merciful. His mercy is unlimited. There is no end to his mercy. And Lord Chaitanya, when he came, we understand through the chanting of Hare Krishna mantra that he opened the storehouse of love of God and allowed everybody to enter that storehouse of love of God simply through the chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha mantra. So there is no such thing as eternal hell. But that does not mean there is not hell. And actually, if I get up off this seat right now and take out the lump hammer that I have in my pocket, I don't have a lump hammer, but I'll take out my fictitious lump hammer and I'll put Giri's hand on the cold marble floor. It's not too cold today, of course, but I'll put his hand on the hard marble floor and I'll get Manu Prabhu to hold his hand down and I will smash his hand with my lump hammer. Then Giri is going to experience hell. I'll probably experience hell as well because he'll probably take his other hand and beat me up. So it's not that hell doesn't exist. There are so many examples we can give, millions upon millions of examples we can give. I just read on the BBC website that over 300 people died in Pakistan over the last day or two because of incredible floods that are taking place there. For those people experiencing that situation, and particularly for the people that were killed, they experienced hell. So hell exists, but it is not eternal. Because if it was eternal, then you could not have an all-merciful Lord. Because how could an all-merciful Lord preside over something that's a hell that is eternal? It actually is just impossible for that. So that's just to sort of clarify the statement here. So the Namalvar is saying the inauspiciousness of the living entities. So the inauspiciousness, the bad karma, if you like, of the living entities is destroyed. No one is going to hell. Yamaraj has no work anymore. Yamaraj is out of a job. Yamaraj is the servant of Lord Vishnu who presides over where people go after they leave their bodies. Do they go up to the spiritual world? Do they stay on this level, or do they go further down like that? So now Yamaraj is at this Namalvar is stating, Yamaraj is out of work, he has no work anymore. And the effects of Kali Yuga, so this is the Yuga that we're existing in now, the age of hypocrisy and quarrel, which we can see in the world. I mean, my God, it is never more front and center, right in front of our eyes, the level of hypocrisy and quarrel that goes on in the world that we live in, like that. So he says, Yamaraj has no work anymore, and the effects of Kali Yuga, the age of hypocrisy and quarrel, they have ceased to exist. They don't exist anymore. And this is because all over the world, there will start to be an increasing number of Lord Krishna's devotees who sing his holy name while dancing and playing musical instruments. Before Srila Prabhupada came to the Western world, there were obviously devotees in certain parts of India who were dancing, chanting the Lord's holy name, dancing and playing musical instruments. But even in India, it wasn't actually that voluminous. It really wasn't that voluminous. There were certain places, obviously Vrindavan, Mayapur, places like that. But really, it was a niche thing. It was a relatively small thing, even in India. But it wasn't happening anywhere outside of India. Now, just like I mentioned about Satish, that we have Rathayatras, we have Rathayatras in over 300 cities in the West, in the world, over 300 cities in the world, we have Rathayatras. But literally every day, you will find in different parts of the world devotees out on the streets chanting Krishna's name, dancing and playing musical instruments. So this was not happening when this Namalvar was stating this. This just wasn't happening. Yet this was spoken, as I say, centuries, if not thousands of years ago. And he's saying, Yamarash has no work anymore, Kali Yuga ceases to exist. Why? Because there are all these devotees out on the streets, not necessarily out on the streets, but out on the streets as well, chanting Lord Krishna's name. So yeah, that wasn't happening when he said that. If I said that now today, you'd say, oh, what's the big deal, Prabhupada? You just have to look out the window and you'll see it all happening, you know? But this just was not happening when this was quoted. Now, one of my personal favorites, so much so that I actually learnt this verse, this is spoken by Bhakti Dev personified. And Bhakti Dev personified is essentially Srimati Radharani, okay, the eternal consort of Lord Krishna. And she spoke this, again, this is in the Padma Purana. So the Padma Purana is, in its written form, is more than 5,250 years old. It's very difficult to, that's its old age, if you like. That's the top end of it, 5,250 years ago. It actually started many, many tens of thousands of years before that. And it's very difficult to pinpoint when different parts of it were written and different parts of it were said. So what we can say is this was absolutely 5,250 years ago minimum, but it could be tens of thousands of years. But it doesn't really matter, because 5,000 years ago, Lord Chaitanya, it was still 4,500 years before Lord Chaitanya appeared and started the Sankirtan movement, the chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. So at least 5,200 years ago, Bhakti Devi said, Idam stanam parijajja videsham gamyate maya. And if you translate that, and she's speaking these words, by the way, to Narada Muni. This is a conversation taking place in Vrindavan. So we all know Vrindavan, where Vrindavan is. So it's taking place in Vrindavan, a minimum of 5,250 years ago. And Bhakti Devi says to Narada Muni, Idam stanam pradikjaja videsham gamyate maya. And the English translation of that is absolutely extraordinary in the context of Srila Prabhupada. Okay? So let's listen to the English translation of that. It's Bhakti Devi saying, I will leave this place, Vrindavan. I will leave this place, Vrindavan, and I will travel to faraway lands to teach the message of Srimad Bhagavatam. So what is the message of Srimad Bhagavatam? The message of Srimad Bhagavatam is understanding that we are the eternal servants of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the only way that we can satisfy all our desires, every single desire that we have, the only way they can be satisfied, not just satisfied, but actually satisfied and then ever increasing in their ecstasy. The only way that we can do that is by engaging on or in our constitutional position of being eternal servants of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And the corollary of that is that if we do not do that, and that's the reason we're all here, and we rebel against that, then we come to the material world, and in the material world then we go on a different path, trying to fulfill those desires, but not through the process of eternal service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but on our own steam, trying to be happy here. So that's why you see all the challenges that happen in the world, because everyone is wanting to be Lord and Master. Rather than being servant, we want to be Lord and Master. And therefore we want to dominate and dictate and lord over the material energy, other people, etc., etc. And that feeds into the whole thing about Kali Yuga and hypocrisy and quarrel. So, the message of Srimad Bhagavatam, she says, I will leave this place, Vrindavan, I will travel to faraway lands, and I will teach the message of Srimad Bhagavatam. So, however many thousands of years ago that Bhakti Devi said this, if you now study that history, as far as we can go back, so I think in written form, at least from the Vedic point of view, things were started to be written down 5,000 years ago, so let's say we can go back that far. If you study the history, and then our more recent history, no one has done that. Nobody has done that. Nobody left Vrindavan, went to faraway lands, and taught the message of Srimad Bhagavatam. Nobody did that. There is no history of that. Until when? Until 1965, when Prabhupada left Vrindavan. That's where he was living. He was living in the Radha Damodar temple in Vrindavan. So he left Vrindavan. And where did he go? He went to America. If you look at a globe of the world, if you look at India and America, they're literally on the opposite sides of the globe. Literally on the just like generally it's understood Ireland is kind of, you know, on the opposite to Australia, New Zealand area, like that. That's the opposite side of the globe. India and America, opposite sides of the globe. So there was nowhere further that Srila Prabhupada could have traveled from Vrindavan than America. So Prabhupada left Vrindavan, he traveled to faraway places, and what did Prabhupada, aside from his clothes, what did Srila Prabhupada bring with him when he got on the boat? He brought with him a trunk of Srimad Bhagavatams. I mean, you know, it's kind of like, what part of that isn't just absolutely slam dunk, that statement that was mentioned, that was spoken all those thousands of years ago, is directly referring to Srila Prabhupada. Okay, so what we're going to do now, I'm going to read, who did I say? Janardhan Maharaj. Oh yeah, okay. So I'm going to read Janardhan Maharaj's offering to Srila Prabhupada, and then I will ask whoever would like to come forward and offer their own appreciation to Srila Prabhupada. I should have looked at these beforehand, Janardhan Maharaj is quite long. Okay. Dear Srila Prabhupada, please accept my humble obeisances with deep gratitude and utmost humility unto the dust of your lotus feet. All glories to your divine grace on your most auspicious appearance day, being a pure representative of Srila Vyasadeva and the disciplic succession. Words are not enough to describe your unlimited mercy and compassion, the immense contribution to the entire human race, and your achievements offered for the upliftment and salvation of the entire world. Being the most ideal representative of Srila Vyasadeva, you came into this world to re-establish that same eternal truth in the darkest time, Kali Yuga. As a result, there will be 10,000 years of a golden age within this Kali Yuga. Deep within your heart, the divine mission of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu will be fulfilled despite the many obstacles and challenges, as is prophesied by our great acharyas. Prithvityachayata nagaridam sabatra pachaive moranam. From the four corners of the globe, you spread the glories of the Supreme Lord, reviving the dormant love and devotion within countless souls. Who else but a pure devotee and empowered acharya could have done this? By the way, that verse that Maharaj is quoting in his offering was also one I was going to refer to. It essentially means, and Lord Chaitanya spoke it, so Lord Chaitanya, the combined incarnation of Krishna and Radha, he spoke it, and essentially what it means is that the chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra will spread to every town and village on the globe. Again, when Lord Chaitanya spoke that and said that, that was 520 years ago, something like that. So when Lord Chaitanya spoke that, nobody in the Western world had ever heard the name Krishna. It just had never, it was not known to anybody. It was only contained within, even within India, it was only contained within a relatively limited number of people. But Lord Chaitanya said, but this will be spread, this chanting of Hare Krishna will be spread to every town and village in the world. And of course, again, going back to, you know, if you look at the Vyasa Puja book, when you get a chance, look at it, the offerings from other parts of the world, you will see offerings from everywhere. You know, from Chile in western South America, to, you know, Alaska up in the northwest of America, over to Japan, down to New Zealand, or to South Africa, and everywhere in between. There's literally hundreds of offerings in this book, and they're literally from every corner of the world. So again, because Srila Prabhupada got on that boat in 1965 and came to the West to give us this message of Srimad Bhagavatam, subsequently he's fulfilling this prediction of Lord Chaitanya. So going back to Maharaj's offering. To establish a new religion is not the purpose for which you appeared in this world. Rather, you came to revive the eternal religion, which is to re-establish the eternal loving relationship every living entity has with Lord Sri Krishna. It says in Srimad Bhagavatam 6.3.19, Dharmam tu shakshad bhagavat pranitam. Real Dharma, or real religion, can only be established by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The direct instructions come from the Supreme Lord. You showed us that our true Dharma is Bhakti Yoga, loving devotional service to Lord Krishna. And you re-establish this understanding in a world lost to Maya. Your books are the foundation of our movement and will be the law books for humanity for many thousands of years to come. Your temples are embassies to the spiritual world. Your devotees and followers are the messengers, and the only sublime medicine is the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Therefore, this will uplift and inspire the conditioned souls year after year after year. Srila Prabhupada, your most compassionate nature, your feeling for the suffering of all souls, reveals your inner desire to help them get out of this material world. Even though you were in bliss serving Krishna in Vrindavan, you did not remain there for your own pleasure. Instead, you took the greatest risk and crossed the ocean, endured hardship, and tolerated rejection, all for the sake of delivering Krishna consciousness to the fallen souls. Like Prahlad Maharaj, you could not bear to see others suffering in ignorance. Like Narada Muni, you traveled tirelessly, planting seeds of bhakti in every town and village. Like Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami, you gave us the perfect philosophical foundation on which to base our spiritual lives. Moreover, like Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, you freely distributed the holy names to one and all without discrimination. This is the symptom of a true Paramahamsa, a pure devotee whose only concern is to serve Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. The most precious gift you gave the world was the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. This transcendental sound vibration is our direct connection to Krishna, and its importance cannot be overemphasized. There is no difference between Krishna and his name. If we chant Hare Krishna without offense, then we are immediately transported to the spiritual world. We are very fortunate to have been introduced to this process of Nam Sankirtan, the very essence of the Yuga Dharma. Through Nam Sankirtan, you gave us the means to get out of our material suffering and awaken our eternal spiritual identity and re-establish our lost relationship with Krishna. You said you will live forever as long as your books are being distributed. Your books are none different from you. They are full of nectarian realizations, saturating us in the knowledge of Tattva Gyan and lifting us out of ignorance. You gave us everything. Bhagavad Gita as it is, the essence of Vedic wisdom. Srimad Bhagavatam, the spotless Purana and the ripened fruit of Vedic knowledge. Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, the heart of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's divine teachings. Countless other books, essays, interviews, conversations and letters, all infused with your divine realizations. You assured us, my books will guide you even after I am gone. Indeed, they continue to guide us generation after generation, leading us back home, back to Godhead. You can tell a great leader by the greatness of his followers. You transformed milechas into dedicated Vaishnavas, pure-hearted souls willing to sacrifice their lives for Krishna's service. Through your mercy, people from all backgrounds, hippies, scholars, professionals, artists, became bhakti yogis, dedicated to spreading Krishna consciousness. Even today, your disciples, grand disciples and followers continue your work, building temples, distributing books, chanting the holy name, and serving ISKCON in countless ways. You establish a society that will carry your mission forward for generations to come. O Srila Prabhupada, I am a fallen soul, and I have no qualification to approach your lotus feet. However, you have guaranteed that even the most unqualified person can achieve perfection simply by sincerely following your instructions. On this most auspicious day, with humility, I offer my service and heart to you. With unflinching faith in your words, please bless me, Please give me the strength not to deviate from following your teachings. I pray that you may engage me life after life, so that I may serve their lordships, Shri Shri Radha Shyamasundar, Shri Krishna Balaram, Shri Shri Gonitai, and you and your devotees eternally. I do not know who you are, but all I know is that I am your insignificant servant. May I always remain at your feet, hoping to surrender one day. I will always be eager to assist in fulfilling your divine mission. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, your insignificant servant, Bhakti Anugraha Janardana Swami, Shri Krishna Balaram Mandir, Vrindavan Dham, India. May I just say at the start of his last paragraph there, he says, Srila Prabhupada, I do not know who you are. I must say, that really resonates with me, We just don't know who Srila Prabhupada was, how unique, how special, what his relationship is with Krishna. Yet he came, he started this movement. He's right in front of us here today in his murti form. We don't know who he is, we just don't know how special he was. It's amazing. So yeah, we don't know who he is. Okay, thank you, and thank you, Janardhan Maharaj. Who would like to offer a few words of appreciation for Srila Prabhupada? Okay, I'll just see if, Shani, are you good to go? But you're ready to go? Okay, so we'll go with the senior and Shani first, and the next one then next. Thanks, Shani. And do we have another microphone by any chance that we could give to the speakers? Oh, we can just spin this around if needed, but...
talking about his come in and just quickly head to the grounds and that, and Prabhupada called it hatchets, and said no more hatchets, the full grounds.
All right, okay.
Which was back to everybody. Dear Srila Prabhupada, please accept my humble obeisances, all glories to your lotus feet. So here we sit for another year, and only by your mercy I'm still somehow hanging on by the tips of my fingers. Only by the great sacrifice you made to leave your beloved, familiar Radha Damodar in Vrindavan to come along without funds, friends, followers, or indeed any idea what a corrupt and sinful society you are about to experience. Only due to this are we gathered here today, and in many hundreds of temples, centres and households worldwide. Your compassion for the fallen souls, us, then and now, compelled you to embark in such a massively challenging undertaking to share the message of love of the Lord. In some short talks we've heard online, your voice cracks and your eyes fill with tears as you thank your followers for their sacrifice. You so loved your disciples. You loved us. Please help me begin to appreciate that love and become fit to be called your follower. Your fallen servant, Shani Dasi.
Jan, thank you so much, Shani. Thank you very much indeed. Yeah, hi, okay, we are going to go from one generation to the next. I hope Shani doesn't mind me saying that. From one generation, from one Ashani as well, not just one generation, so the next, both called Ashani. Now we're going to have the young generation Ashani. Well, I'll say one.
Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namini Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharini Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Pashatyada Sutarini. Hare Krishna. I'm very grateful to Srila Prabhupada for his grace that I can speak few words about his causeless mercy on us. He has us. He traveled around the whole world at the age of 70, such an old age, right? So he sets an example for us that when we do hard work of it, it pays off by attaining Krishna, the Supreme Lord of all. So he is also teaching us to be determined mind, have a determined mind that I want Krishna only, no one else. And once Srila Prabhupada said in his lectures that don't be slave of Maya because she knows how to trick us. So if we surrender unto who? Krishna. So we won't be slave of Maya. Instead, we will be Das or Dasi of Krishna. So I offered all my respects to you, O Srila Prabhupada. Hari Bol.
Jai, thank you, Jai. And just after hearing those two offerings, the mood of Vyasa Puja offering is, as I was using the word, appreciation and glorification of Srila Prabhupada, you know, so that was nice in those two offerings, because sometimes people, they don't quite get that, and they sort of give their thoughts on this, that, or the other, you know, but it's actually meant to be a direct glorification of Srila Prabhupada. Okay, so is anybody else ready to say some words of appreciation for Prabhupada? Prabhu, please come.
Dear Srila Prabhupada, please accept my humble obeisances and sheer gratitude at your lotus feet for saving me from the delusion which people have these days, thinking either they have figured out who Krishna is or they don't need Krishna at all. In time when intolerance has become a cool way to express ourselves, impatience feels the right thing to pursue for getting something easy and quick. And Instagram Reels gives the feeling of being always right while being all-knowing, and when the value of intelligence has been taken over by the power of money, I turn towards your book and want for solace. After spending almost 9 years in struggling for Krishna consciousness, I realized I have just scratched the surface of what pure devotion can be, but understood the power of gradual elevation and compounding effect in Krishna consciousness. In your Nectar of Devotion, when the pastime of a confidential devotee comes, where Kolavich Sridhar, who used to sell cups and spend 50% of this small income on the worship of Ganga, and with other 50% he was somehow living. When Lord Chaitanya offered him any opulence that he liked, Sridhar informed that Lord, he did not want any material opulence. He was quite happy in his present position and wanted only to gain unflinching faith and devotion on the lotus feet of Lord Chaitanya. Upon thinking, I realized there is no way he can be bewildered or troubled by the moods of Maya, who makes us dance and die in this world as much as she wants and however way she likes. I understood that we are eternal servant, either we are servant of our senses or servant of Krishna, and being part of his eternal blissful dancing. This is how through your Sanskrit narration I could live at the gist of what Kolavich Sridhar felt in his devotion. Dear Prabhupada, your whole life was in preparation to spread this message of Krishna consciousness. Then how I can expect I would understand the transcendental message in 3 years of patience? Hence, seeking your blessings to take this bewildered soul at your lotus feet of this lifetime, I have written a small poem for you. So, just few lines. Your presence in your books is my spiritual embrace. O Prabhupada, seeking your divine grace. Times are being intolerant and full of impatient fire blaze. When I see people coming easily but don't stay, surely Maya is at her best place. O Prabhupada, I beg tinge of your devotional gaze and seeking your divine grace. Since time immemorial, people are running while being under since time immemorial, people are running while being under delusional craze. You have forcibly saved me through this devotional phase. Uplift this ignorant soul from Maya's gaze. O Prabhupada, I beg to be in your eternal shelter while being servant of the servants and seeking your divine grace. Hare Krishna.
Jai, thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, Boo. And just, I may not need to say this, but I think it's always good just to double check. If we have any people in the room who are not necessarily familiar with all the language that we use, but because you mentioned at least twice in that poem the word Maya, just to explain that word, just in case anyone's not aware. Prabhupada translates the word Maya, literally translates it as that which is not. That which is not. And the more general term we use is illusion. It's an illusion. So in the material world, Prabhu was just reading this poem, he was saying that people come and then you don't see them again, that they've been attracted by Maya or taken away by Maya or taken away by illusion, taken away by that which is not. So the example of that, as I was saying, joking yesterday, when somebody, I was coming in and it was very busy and lots of people in the city and all that, and somebody told me that that's because there's an Oasis concert on. And I just made the point that actually that's an interesting name because really it's a mirage, it's not an oasis. The only oasis that we can find is the shelter of the pure devotees like Srila Prabhupada and Lord Krishna to put out the flames of the material energy in the material world. We're literally burning in the flames of the material energy. So that's what Prabhu was meaning. So I guess it was in Croke Park, this concert, so I'm assuming it was probably, I don't know, I think it holds about 80,000 or something like that, you know. So last night at Janmashtami, of course I was very busy at Janmashtami, but I don't know how many plates of prasad we distributed, a number of hundreds I suppose. 500. So here's Janmashtami, Lord Krishna's birthday. Lord Krishna, who is Aham Savasya Prabhuvo, I am the creator of all the spiritual and material worlds. Lord Krishna, who is, how else would we describe it? Krishna is Tu Bhagavan Swayam. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Nothing exists outside of Krishna. And Krishna can create all these universes simply by glancing. That's all he does, and then he glances, and all of these universes are created. So last night in Dublin, we had 500 people coming to appreciate and celebrate Lord Krishna's birthday, and we had 80,000 people in Croke Park appreciating a couple of Irish Mancunians with their foul mouths. So that's what Prabhupada, well, that's what Maya is. The illusion that we think somehow or another we are going to be happy. I shouldn't pick on that particular group, you know, I'm just use it as an example. But happy going to a concert, happy going to a football match, you know, happy going to the pub, you know, happy going to the cinema, whatever it might be, that is Maya. If we actually think. And by the way, there are two stages here. I think there's an important distinction to make. There are people, and that's the vast majority of people in the material world, they genuinely are of the impression that they can be happy here. Actually, after Duryodhana Guru spoke yesterday, I just spoke with him briefly for 5 minutes or something after he spoke, and he was talking about his trials and tribulations, health trials and tribulations over the recent past. On 2 occasions, he's nearly died, basically. And I just said to him, another thing Krishna tells us in Bhagavad Gita is Abrahma Bhuvana Lokha. Krishna says, from the highest planet in the material world down to the lowest planet. We're kind of somewhere in the middle, you know. But from the highest planet Krishna's not talking about this universe, he's talking about the whole material creation when he says that. So it's like just unlimited planets, unlimited universes. From the highest planet in the material world down to the lowest, all are places of misery. Because they're places where birth and death take place. Yeah, I was just saying to Duryodhana Prabhu, when he was, after he spoke, that it's amazing, you know, look at the trials and tribulations you went through. Of course, he's a devotee of Krishna, so he understands these things. But 99% of the population of this planet are thinking they can be happy here. It is such a sad thing that's why these great souls like Srila Prabhupada make these incredible sacrifices of traveling thousands of miles on a cargo boat at the age of 70, you know, to come. They come because it's just such a sad situation that the world is in, and people are actually thinking they can be happy here. It's just, it's just like saying, you know, that I will extend my life by cutting my throat. You know, it's just a complete oxymoron. You cannot be happy in this world. So that's why these personalities travel and come and try to inform us of this. It's an act of the utmost compassion like that. So just to go back to the Maya point, because it is an important point, Maya, there are kind of three aspects to Maya. One is, there are many more. I'm just going to give three now in relation to the thought that came to my mind. So one is those people who are completely in Maya, and they just have no knowledge of spiritual life, no knowledge of Krishna, and they think they can be happy here. Those people are really very unfortunate, and they are just immersed in Maya and the material energy. Then you have people like Srila Prabhupada, who are completely transcendental to Maya. Although, here's an interesting little anecdote that I should tell. When some of Prabhupada's disciples, who were struggling to stay in Krishna consciousness, some of them, some of his disciples came to him one time and they asked him, Srila Prabhupada, how is it that you're just immune from Maya? I think that was the phrase they used, immune from Maya, free from Maya. How is it that you're just free? And Srila Prabhupada said, it is not that I'm free from Maya, but I have a very healthy respect for Maya's power. And therefore I'm on my alert, or I'm alert all the time to make sure that Maya doesn't capture me. But that was Prabhupada really being humble. Prabhupada was transcendental to Maya in that sense. So you have the people who are completely immersed in Maya, and you have people like Srila Prabhupada who are completely transcendental to Maya. But then you have some people, and I would suggest every one of us sitting in this room are in this group, that we're not completely immersed in Maya, and we know Maya's power, but we're also not transcendental to Maya. So we may have difficulties in our spiritual life. That's okay, as long as we acknowledge and remain understanding that notwithstanding the problems that we have, we are not going to justify those. We're going to humbly accept that we've made a mistake, that we're not so strong or whatever. And then we remain in Krishna's protection. It's only when we start saying, no, it's wrong, I'm right, then we run into bigger trouble. So anyway, I just want to say, some people have no knowledge whatsoever, some people are completely transcendental to Maya, but there are also some of us, like us in this room, who are somewhere in the middle. Okay, thank you very much. Who else would like to say a few words of appreciation for Srila Prabhupada? Thank you.
I offer my deep gratitude to His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, the founder Acharya Krishna. I believe Vyasa Puja is the right time to honor our spiritual master. Before I go down to Srila Prabhupada, I would like to go down to his parents, like Mother Rasmi Dey and Father Gaur Dey, because they desire to get a son like Prabhupada. Even yesterday we celebrated Janmashtami. Before descended Krishna, before descending on the material world, he is explaining Devaki and Vasudev. Because in your previous life also, you desired me to get me as a son. So that's why I descended that time as Vamandev and Krishna. So this time also I will descend as a Krishna, your son. So these parents are great who gave us a kid like us. Give us a kid like us. And what I know from Prabhupada's life, Prabhupada lived a life for a mission. Like he has gone through many difficulties, challenges, but still he was able to successful to transform many lives and to start their spiritual journey because it's happened because he was very kind, compassionate, and like his constant belief on Krishna, like Krishna is the supreme personality of God, he is the master of the universe. So that made everybody realize yes, Krishna, really Krishna is the master of this universe. That's why he kept this name, International Society of Krishna Consciousness. It's not easy because he is the only person who made everybody realize like Krishna is the only God who is the master of the universe. If Krishna is happy, then ultimately all the gods are happy. No need to reach to every god individually. And at the end, I can say like this, his books constantly remind, whenever I read Bhagavad Gita, his book constantly remind me is this material world will not get real happiness in this material world because this material world is full of misery, sorrow. But still, he also teaching the skills how we can get how we can live happily here by chanting Hari name and serving Lord with love. So, if Srila Prabhupada, please bless me. Anyhow, you always bless us, but still as it is your birthday, so definitely I seek special blessing from you. So bless me so I can serve my Guru and follow your co-regulative principle till the last breath of my life.
Jai, thank you, Raj, thank you. Yeah, thank you very much, very nice. And when we come to offer also, we can bear in mind that Srila Prabhupada's here with us, and you know we're speaking to him directly. We don't have to speak to him through as a third person, but we can speak to Prabhupada directly. Fantastic. Anybody else would like to come forward? Satish Guru, thank you.
स्वामिनीति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी आचार्यदेशकारिणे Prabhupada, please accept my humble obeisances at your divine lotus feet. All glories to you on this most auspicious appearance day of your divine grace. Prabhupada, I am deeply grateful for your causeless mercy and blessings upon me and my family. Because of your teachings, we are able to overcome many difficulties in this world of Maya. By your constant emphasis on this holy name throughout your lectures and books, we are inspired and able to chant every day. You are my guide, inspiration in following the four regulative principles of life, for which I am most thankful. By your grace and through your pure devotees, wherever we go, we are able to find temples of Sri Radha Krishna and Sri Nitaya Gauranga and relish the wonderful mercy of Prasadam. None of this would have been possible without your tireless compassion upon the fallen souls. A true Guru is always alive in the hearts of his disciples through his instructions. Your ceaseless day and night writings and preachings continue to guide and strengthen us in Krishna consciousness, making us feel your presence at every step. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, the eternal servant of Lord Chaitanya, who delivered the whole world through the gift of the holy name. Hare Krishna.
Jai, thank you, Satish Guru. Thank you very much, very nice. Satish was using the word your ceaseless writings. It is an extraordinary thing. Again, Prabhupada was 70 when he left India and left this world when he was 81, so in 11 years. Do we have a bookcase that displays, or not really here? Something there behind Anakot Prabhu. But you see all these books here, all these volumes and volumes, and that is really just, you know, a partial selection. all these volumes of books. Srila Prabhupada translated and gave commentary on all the verses in those 11 years that he was with us, from 70 to 81. In fact, there was this extraordinary video that you will find online where Prabhupada is literally, I remember, all my life really hearing that phrase, somebody's skin and bone. It's actually only when I saw those pictures, I mean, they're kind of painful pictures to watch on one level, because you're sort of ego projecting what it must feel like to be in that situation where you're just about to leave this world, and the pain, etc. But at the same time, they're simultaneously glorious to watch, because Srila Prabhupada is just an amazing thing. He's lying on his bed in Vrindavan, and he is literally skin and bone. And shortly before that, I think it was only a matter of 2 weeks or something before he left his body, maybe a month, but something like that. The devotees had a doctor come from Delhi, I think he came from, a doctor. He was kind of he was a regular doctor, but he was also familiar with Ayurveda also, and he was also friendly with Prabhupada. Prabhupada knew him. So they had him come to Vrindavan to see Srila Prabhupada. And the doctor came in, and the first thing, and Prabhupada was literally skin and bone, and the first thing was that when Prabhupada saw him, he said, why are you here? And he said, the devotees asked me to come, and Prabhupada said, there is no need. But you must have travelled a long way, because in those days it would take 4 hours to get from Delhi to Vrindavan. So it's a longish journey, maybe even more actually in the 70s. Anyway, so you had a long journey, etc. So Prabhupada started talking and saying, you had a long, you must be tired. There's a room just next door, you can go and have a nap, and I can organise some prasadam for you. So the doctors come to see Prabhupada, and Prabhupada's just concerned about his welfare, and that he's rested enough, and he's going to get prasadam, etc., etc. Anyway, the doctor was with him for some time, and then he left the room, and the devotees wanted to know, what do you think, doctor, about Srila Prabhupada? And he said, well, all I can say is that that's the most extraordinary experience of my life, because looking at Prabhupada, that he literally is skin and bone, one of the things that our muscles and our tendons and all those things do is that they're like a protective thing for our nerves. But when you don't have them and your nerves are exposed, just like when you get a toothache and the nerve is exposed, how painful that can be. So he said, this is amazing. He says, essentially all of Srila Prabhupada's nerves are completely exposed all over his body, because there's no insulation around them, and they're just touching off his bones, etc. He said, for any person in this world in that situation, either they would already be dead, or they would be on the most powerful painkillers that medicine has, so as that they wouldn't be in excruciating pain. Prabhupada was on no painkillers. It's just quite an extraordinary thing. So I was just saying about ceaseless, whoever used the word ceaseless in their offering. So all these books. So Srila Prabhupada's general schedule was, because if he was just translating books, it would still have been a big task. But of course he wasn't. He was running a worldwide organization. He was opening temples everywhere, installing deities, opening vegetarian restaurants, opening schools, farm communities. It was just his to-do list was just an extraordinary length of big things. And on top of all that, he was translating all these books. So his general schedule was, he would take rest at 11 o'clock at night, and he would wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning. So 3 hours sleep. I know we can kind of survive on 3 or 4 hours sleep a night for 1 or 2 nights, but for that to be your regular schedule, most of us need, I'll speak for myself, I really need anything less than 6.5 hours, and really anything less than 7 hours. You tend to start struggling during the day at some point, with your focus and whatever, because you're tired. But Prabhupada was literally 3 hours a night. That was his normal schedule, just 3 hours of sleep a night. And why would he get up so early in the morning? Because he would have such a full day looking after all those other things, that he would use those very early hours from 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock in particular to translate books and write his commentaries. And why is he doing this? Why was he doing that? so as that humankind could benefit from this knowledge and free themselves from the clutches of Maya. So yeah, his ceaseless is a very good word, he just didn't stop. Okay, who would like to offer a few words next to Srila Prabhupada? Thank you, Yash Prabhu. Yash Prabhu is sort of leads our book distribution department in ISKCON Dublin and is very dedicated to keeping the fire of the distribution of Srila Prabhupada's books going. As I say, 48 years this is since Srila Prabhupada left, and we still have dedicated Vaishnavas like that who are determined to make sure that Srila Prabhupada's books keep getting distributed.
Hare Krishna. Dear Srila Prabhupada, I offer my humble obeisances to your lotus feet. Today on this auspicious day of your last puja, I pray to you to please extend your mercy so I can continue preaching your mission. You left your home from India, Vrindavan, to come to the West about 70 years ago on Jalduta, just to preach Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission and your Guru Maharaj's instructions, just to give the best gift you can ever give to the entire world of Prem Bhakti. You have given us an ocean full of transcendental knowledge through your priceless books. You have instructed all of us to rise above the differences and to preach society Krishna consciousness. I seek your mercy so that I can stay away from this generation's problems of depression, distraction, and so on. In one of your lectures, you have taught us how the heart of a devotee should be. You have taught us to be compassionate even while performing our duties through the example of Arjuna. You have shown us the qualities of a Vaishnava, Paradukha Dukhi. Dear Srila Prabhupada, I ask forgiveness for my many shortcomings in service to you. Though fallen, unworthy and unqualified, you still extend your boundless mercy, the greatest gift of my life. You have saved me and blessed us with the compassion of Lord Chaitanya. I pray to remain always absorbed in gratitude and serving your devoted servants. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai. Thank you, Yash Prabhu. Thank you so much. And of course, as is my want, I actually forgot to finish the point I was trying to make about Prabhupada on his bed before he left his body. So the actual thing I wanted to say, and I drifted off into all different directions. Actually, when I was growing up as a kid, there was a certain one comedian, one of the what was his name, one of the Ronnies, the small guy. And he had that reputation for always drifting off somehow or another, changing the stories somehow or other. I think it infected me. But the point that I was going to make was, so Srila Prabhupada lying there after that doctor came and explained his physical condition and how nobody else could have tolerated that. Literally then, for the next month, until Srila Prabhupada actually left this world, you will see him lying on his bed, and devotees have a microphone to his mouth. And literally, within hours of him leaving this world, he is translating Srimad Bhagavatam. The devotees have the microphone to his mouth. It's just inconceivable, that you would be overwhelmed. All of that, 99.9% of people would just be overwhelmed in that situation, just totally absorbed in the challenges that they're facing, the physical and mental challenges that they're facing. And there's Prabhupada, and he's translating Srimad Bhagavatam, quite extraordinary. Okay, who else would like to say a few words of appreciation? Shampoo, thank you. We're liking the Lord Chaitanya Kurtas there.
Dear Srila Prabhupada, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to the Lord. It is a great blessing and privilege to be here celebrating your appearance day. You began your journey to the West just over 60 years ago to bring Krishna consciousness to us. I was born long after your disappearance from this material world, but thanks to your great sacrifice, your disciples and their disciples, I had the priceless fortune of being born into a Krishna conscious family. Thank you. Thanks to your extraordinary effort of spreading Krishna consciousness around the world, I'm placed somehow fortunate enough to be in the association of Sri Krishna and his devotees. I have the immeasurable privilege of learning the most precious of knowledge, learning Krishna's divine instructions and his eternal pastimes. There is no better life than life with Krishna and being in the hands of Lord Krishna. I thank you for giving me this life. I am saying this at a crucial moment when we, the devotees of Dublin and the devotees of all of Ireland, are trying our very best to purchase land for Krishna and to build a beautiful temple for him. You did more for us than we can ever repay you for. I thank you for the temples you started to bring us closer to Krishna. Please give us your blessings and your guidance and help us continue our mission for centuries to come. Our beloved Srila Prabhupada, I thank you from the bottom of my heart for bringing Lord Sri Krishna to us. I pray that I can serve you for the rest of eternity. Your insignificant servant, Krishna.
Jai, thank you, Shanti, thank you very much. Maybe I'll read Yadunanda Maharaj's offering now and then call on the next speaker. Yadunanda Maharaj is a devotee who's originally from Spain, and he was with us just a couple of weeks ago. He attended our Dublin Rath Yatra and also our Belfast Rath Yatra, and he had a very nice time. At least that's what he told me. So this is Yadunanda Maharaj's offering. Dear Srila Prabhupada, please accept my humble obeisances at your lotus feet, all glories to your divine grace. My primary service to you and your representatives is to cooperate with fellow devotees in spreading Krishna consciousness to every province in Spain. This year, I humbly offer you a reflection on your instructions given in letters to your dear disciples, which I also embrace as personal guidance. All generations of devotees in the Krishna consciousness movement are meant to become instruments according to their capacity to assist you in fulfilling Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's desire to deliver the holy names of Krishna to every town and village in the world. Moreover, we aspire to please you, for as you taught us, satisfaction of the self-realized spiritual master is the secret of advancement in spiritual life. That comes from the purport to Bhagavad Gita 4:34. In 1976, you wrote, I approve your plan to combine together with Keshava to lead a party of Spanish-speaking devotees with Nam Sankirtan to every town and village in Spain. That was a letter that Prabhupada wrote on December 24, 1976. I carry on my head the instruction from my Diksha Guru, your Satsvarup Maharaj, to focus on preaching in Spain as my Prabhu Datadesh. Inspired by this, I strive to contribute alongside other devotees to bringing Nam Sankirtan not only to every province, but, as you are empowering us in this letter, to every town and village in Spain. That same year, 1976, when ISKCON was legally registered in Spain, you also wrote, your desire to please me is very pleasing, and your preaching program in Spain sounds very nice. Please push on this movement in the Spanish and Portuguese languages with great enthusiasm, and certainly Krishna will bless you for taking so much trouble to preach his glories. A Vaishnava always feels himself incapable to repay his debt to his spiritual master. Therefore, he works very hard in order to try and repay that debt. He knows that without the mercy of the spiritual master, one cannot preach this Krishna consciousness. And therefore, he always tries to act in such a way that he may please his Guru. Please continue in this way and keep very strictly the regulative principles and chanting the prescribed number of rounds on the beads, and you will clear the way for your success in your preaching work. That was a letter to Chatur Murtidas on the August 9th, 1976. And back to Yadunanda Maharaj. Hence, you reassure us that any service offered to please you, especially through preaching, is deeply cherished. You remind us that Krishna will bless every endeavor and austerity we undertake to spread his movement, even when we feel unqualified or the risk seems daunting. Most crucially, you reveal the key to success: sincere adherence to chanting the prescribed rounds and strictly following the regulative principles. I surrender at your lotus feet, Srila Prabhupada, and pray for your guidance, blessings, and empowerment to deliver Krishna's holy names and teachings to every corner of Spain in harmony with the community of devotees. With heartfelt gratitude, your eternal servant, Yadunandan Swami. Yadunandan Maharaj Ki. Now I have to say that, Yadunandan Maharaj's last sentence there, I surrender at your lotus feet, Srila Prabhupada, pray for your guidance, blessing, and empowerment to deliver the holy name, Krishna's holy names and teachings to every corner of Spain. So he was obviously on a vacation here in Ireland a couple of weeks ago, he was like, helping us here in Ireland too. And actually, reading that letter, that 1976 letter, it's so sweet, where Prabhupada is saying that, where he says, let me get it, he says, a Vaishnava, or a devotee, always feels himself incapable to repay his debt to his spiritual master. But he works very hard in order to try and repay that debt by trying to push on the Krishna consciousness movement and encourage other people to take to the process of Krishna consciousness. It's just so sweet, because the word debt is there. In our experience in life, when we hear the word debt, a word I guess that none of us particularly like, we're told that we're in debt, it's a word, you owe money, you owe something to a financial institution or to some other person like that. It's a debt that you have to repay. So Prabhupada is using that word, but it's so beautiful, we've got a massive debt to Prabhupada because of the sacrifice he made at the age of 70. Many of you have referenced it, getting on a boat at the age of 70, a cargo boat, 6 weeks, going to a land, a strange land you've never been to before, you don't know anybody, you're all on your own, so massive sacrifice that Prabhupada took for us. So we've got this debt to repay, but it's not in the form of money. Should have Prabhupada did more money. He wasn't interested, It's simply in helping to push on the mission of Krishna consciousness. It's just such a sweet thing, Okay, thank you very much. I tell you what I'll do here. I'll just reference one more of those predictions, because the previous ones I've mentioned were very much ancient ones, going back tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of years, so they're very ancient ones. So I'm going to come to a bit more of a modern one. And this is the words of Lord Chaitanya himself. So Lord Chaitanya is behind me, right? Lord Chaitanya is directly behind me. So Lord Chaitanya is in the yellow there. So he came, and he's the most recent incarnation of Lord Krishna. He's the most recent incarnation of Lord Krishna, who appeared in Navadvip in modern-day West Bengal around 525, 530 years ago, that kind of time frame. So it's relatively recent. When I went to school, my first schooling was across the Irish Sea in England. So when I went to school, the first history that I learned was the history of Henry VIII, Tudor history. And I still remember, divorced, beheaded, died, divorced, beheaded, survived, that's how you remember his 6 wives. He divorced the first one, he chopped the second one's head off, the third one died in childbirth, next one, divorced, beheaded, died, the next one he divorced because she was, the ones he divorced were foreigners. That one was a Spanish woman, French-Spanish, one was a Dutch woman, He didn't chop their heads off because he couldn't risk going to war. So he divorced them. The English ones that he married, he chopped their heads off because that was okay, he was the king. So divorced, beheaded, died, divorced, beheaded, survived. The last one outlived him. So that was the history I was learning. Henry VIII and Lord Chaitanya were contemporaries. So when we talk about Lord Chaitanya and his pastimes with his devotees in Navadvip, etc., in Jagannath Puri, it's not that long ago. It's really not that long ago. Because the nature of us, the way that we work as living entities in these material bodies, is it's very hard for us to identify with things that happened before we were born. It's kind of an interesting thing. We can learn the history, But, you know, it's sort of just, we only really see relevance to our existence from memories that we have. But 500 years is really not a very long time ago. So when Lord Chaitanya was here, he made this statement, Ebenam Sankirtan Titikshna Kada Laya Ankara Asura Jivera Fele Kacha Yadi Yadi Papi Chapi Yadi Yadi Papi Chadi Dharma Dura Desha Yaya Mora Sena Pati Bhakta Yaibe Titaya. The translation of this, and please, these are amazing words. So this is Lord Chaitanya speaking. Again, understanding that Krishna consciousness was, Lord Chaitanya himself went on a tour of South India to preach Krishna consciousness. South India was not Krishna conscious at that time. So, a big part of it still aren't, by the way. But you know, it just wasn't familiar with the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. It had Buddhist influences, it had other influences, etc. But it, you know, it wasn't in that sense privy so much to the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. So Lord Chaitanya went on a tour of South India. Nothing was happening outside of India in terms of Krishna consciousness. You know, nothing at all was happening outside of India. So these are Lord Chaitanya's words that I just spoke in Bengali. So the English is, taking the sharp sword, which is an interesting reference actually, but taking the sharp sword of Harinam Sankirtan, or the congregational chanting of the holy names of Lord Krishna. I, meaning Lord Chaitanya speaking about himself, because he inaugurated the Sankirtan mission, he went on Harinam literally every day in Navadvip, and then he went to Srivas Thakur's house in the evenings to chant with the devotees like that. Then when he went to Jagannath Puri, he was out in Harinam all the time, he was dancing in front of the Rath car. So Lord Chaitanya is literally the incarnation of the holy name. So he says, so taking the sharp sword of the congregational chanting of the holy name, I will root out and destroy the demoniac mentality in the hearts of conditioned souls. So this is what the chanting of Hare Krishna mantra does. You know, people might not realize that on the streets of Dublin, but when they stop and listen to us chanting Hare Krishna, what's actually happening is Lord Chaitanya is taking out a sword and he's putting it into their hearts and he's cutting out. You know, you're chopping potatoes and you come to a rotten piece. You know, you cut that rotten piece out and you get rid of it and then use the rest of the potato. So Lord Chaitanya is putting the sharp sword into the hearts when people are listening to the holy name, and he's cutting out that demoniac mentality, that rotten part of the heart that is existing. So I will root out and destroy the demoniac mentality in the hearts of the conditioned souls. Great. The second part, and this again is references and is related to Srila Prabhupada. So the second part is, if some sinful people, and for this, by the way, this relates to all of us, at least all of us who are not from an Indian background, but maybe even the ones from an Indian background, I'm not sure how many. If some sinful people escape, this is Lord Chaitanya speaking while he's on Harinam, or while he's performing congregational chanting in Navadvip. If some sinful people escape and run away to far-off countries, so you're all running away to far-off countries even now. So if some simple people escape and run away to far-off countries, I will send my Senapati Bhakta, and the Senapati Bhakta means my commander-in-chief. I will send my Senapati Bhakta to go to those far-away lands to give them Krishna consciousness. That's amazing, right? So this is Krishna in the form of Lord Chaitanya speaking 500 years ago. And again, since Lord Chaitanya spoke those words, the only example we have of that happening is Srila Prabhupada in 1965 when he got on the Jaraduta. All, for me at least, all incredibly amazing. Amazing, amazing. Okay, so who would like to offer a few words of appreciation? Anuradha, please, thank you.
Dear Srila Prabhupada, please accept my most humble obeisances at your lotus feet. I offer my heartfelt gratitude for your mercy, guidance, and the loving care you have shown to all your disciples and all the fallen souls like me. Without your mercy, I would remain lost in illusion, but by your kindness, I have at least a small chance to walk the path of devotion. I am painfully aware of my fault, weakness, and forgetfulness. Yet your compassion inspired me to try again and again. I made so many mistakes, and still you continue to guide me through your books, your words, and your association of devotees. Please forgive all my offenses, conscious or unconscious, and help me purify my heart so that I may become a faithful servant of Krishna. I pray that your instruction always remain alive in my mind, word, and action, and that I may have stray from the path of devotion, no matter what circumstances become. Thank you, Srila Prabhupada.
Jai, thank you, Anuradha. Thank you very much for your nice words. Just while the next person's getting the microphone, whoever wants to speak next, there's the microphone, you can get yourself ready. This is Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur speaking. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur was quite an amazing personality because, and here some devotees have talked about Maya when they've been making their offering. So here's the power of Maya. This is how powerful Maya is. By the way, Maya, Devi, she has a particular responsibility. And her responsibility, she's a servant of Krishna, you know, the personification of Maya. And she has a particular responsibility, and that is that the spiritual world is pure. That's why we came here, because we originally were in the spiritual world, but we had impure thoughts, and we had to be ejected from the spiritual world. So the spiritual world is pure. And Maya's job, Maya's service, just like you might have a service of cleaning the temple, cooking the prasadam, whatever it might be, distributing books, with different services. Maya's service is to make sure that the only people who enter the spiritual world are pure like the spiritual world. Not that they have, she's protecting the spiritual world, Krishna's kingdom, from any impurities. What was I going to say about Maya? Why did I bring up the subject of Maya again? I was going to say Maya Devi, protecting the spiritual world. Oh, look at that. Hare Krishna. Oh yes, now I know what I was going to say. Thank you. The power of Maya. So the power of Maya. So Lord Chaitanya, he came, as we say, about 500 years ago. So this is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the combined incarnation of Radha and Krishna. And he did so much to spread Krishna consciousness and establish Krishna consciousness, particularly in the modern day subcontinent of India. Within a few hundred years of Lord Chaitanya leaving this world, just within a few hundred years, again in the context of history, in the context of eternity, a few hundred years is absolutely nothing. So just within a few hundred years of Lord Chaitanya departing this world, there are practically no devotees left in India. What had happened is that certain devotees, they decided to corrupt the teachings of Lord Chaitanya. So Lord Chaitanya was the combination of Radha and Krishna, and they turned that into some cheap material thing, saying that everything is based around sex. So those people are known as the Prakriti Sahajas, and they got such a grip on the whole population that they were preaching to, and which is easy enough actually, because it's Maya, right? They're offering Maya, sex life. So you know, if you have the pubs here along Abbey Street, along O'Connell Street, and they've signs outside saying everybody come in, unlimited free alcohol. You know, loads of people are going to go in. You know, so because they're attracted to that. So in one sense, you know, getting lots of followers for something material is not particularly hard, because people are attracted to those temporary material things. So anyway, Lord Chaitanya's movement was essentially taken over by the Prakriti Sahajas, and they'd literally taken it over, and there were very, very few devotees left. Bhaktivinoda Thakur was one of those devotees, and his life's mission was to re-establish the principles that Lord Chaitanya had given a few hundred years earlier. And he literally did that and reawakened the whole bhakti movement. And then, of course, what happened was his disciple, foremost disciple, and also son, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he then drove that forward even more, establishing 64 mats or temples around India presenting Krishna consciousness. And then, of course, his disciple, and this is how amazing this stuff is. The first time that Srila Prabhupada met Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, so here we have Bhakti Thakur, who re-established Krishna consciousness. His disciple, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, really got into that bigger. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur left this world in 1936, right? 1936 he left this world. Srila Prabhupada appeared in this world in 1896. So when his guru left, he was 40 years of age. He first met his guru, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Srila Prabhupada first met his guru when he was 22 years of age. I think he was 22 when he first... 25? Okay, 25. 22, 25, okay, in his 20s. Prabhupada was in his 20s when he first met his guru. Anyway, so when he first met his guru, it's just an amazing thing. Let's say you came to the Dublin Temple today for the first time, okay? And someone is sitting here, me or somebody else, whatever, is speaking and giving a talk. So he's giving a talk. Bhakti Siddhanta Maharaj is giving a talk. Srila Prabhupada, at the end of the talk, Srila Prabhupada raised his hand and asked a question. And it's interesting, because Srila Prabhupada, before he became a devotee, we understand that Srila Prabhupada was always a devotee, of course, but, you know, both for the pastime, and also Bhakti Thakur as well, the pastimes are that there's a period when they're not fully manifest as a devotee, let's put it like that, you know, they're kind of covered a little bit as a devotee. So Srila Prabhupada, prior to formally accepting the instructions of his spiritual master, he was in the Gandhi movement. Prabhupada was part of the Gandhi movement like that. So when he first met his spiritual master gave a talk. The talk, of course, was all about the importance of Krishna consciousness, and it is ultimately the only important thing for all of us in our lives is Krishna consciousness. So that was the presentation that Bhakti Siddhanta Maharaj was giving. So at the end of his talk, he asked for questions, and Srila Prabhupada put up his hand to ask a question. So he said, okay. And Srila Prabhupada's question was, how can we focus on this thing called Krishna consciousness while our country is under the rule of the British? And Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Maharaj said, that is temporary. That will come, that will go. You have so many empires in the world through history. They come and they go, and the waves change and the circumstances change. But the underlying foundation and only principle of this world, and the only thing, this was the real thing he said, the only thing that is lacking in this world, there is no shortage of anything in this world other than Krishna consciousness. And that is why it is so essential that we focus 100% on that, and we do not get distracted by external circumstances that come and go and change accordingly like that. Prabhupada was really impressed with that. And then later on they talked, the same day, same evening, they talked. And what did Bhakti Siddhanta Maharaj say to Srila Prabhupada? And he's just met him, and he's just a young man in his 20s, and he's just met him, you know. And he said, you should spread this movement in the Western world. And Srila Prabhupada took that instruction right then and then, and that's what he did later on. Then he left and came to the West. So, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur was Srila Prabhupada's grandfather guru. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur was the one, as I say, who re-established Krishna consciousness. And this is what he wrote in the Sajani Toshani, which was a magazine that he and some of his followers produced at that time. And just as a point of information, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur continued with the Sajani Toshani magazine for many years after Bhaktivinoda Thakur left. But then they decided to change it in the English language. That was a choice they made so that they could reach more people. And that became the Back to Godhead magazine, which Srila Prabhupada then continued, and we still have it to this very day. The Back to Godhead magazine comes out every month. Anyway, so in the previous incarnation of the Back to Godhead magazine, the Sajani Toshani, in 1885, Bhaktivinoda Thakur wrote, Lord Chaitanya did not advent himself to liberate only a few men in India. No. Rather, His main objective was to emancipate or liberate all living entities of all countries throughout the entire universe and preach the eternal religion of Krishna consciousness. There is no doubt that this unquestionable order will come to pass. So this is 1885, okay? This is 1896, 1885. 9 years. This is 9 years before Srila Prabhupada appeared, before Srila Prabhupada was born. So he says, rather, his main objective was to emancipate all living entities of all countries throughout the entire universe and preach the eternal religion of Krishna consciousness. There is no doubt that this unquestionable order will come to pass. Very soon, the unparalleled path of Harinam Sankirtan will be propagated all over the world. Oh, for that day when the fortunate English, French, Russian, German and American people will take up banners, madongas, cartels and raise kirtan throughout their streets and towns. When will that day come? That day will witness the holy transcendental ecstasy of the Vaishnava Dharma to be the only Dharma, and all the sects and religions will flow like rivers into the ocean of Vaishnava Dharma. When will that day come? That day came in 1965. So what was it, 1885? So 80 years later, right? 1885, 1965. 11 years. Oh, between 9 and 11, yeah. So it was 11 years before Srila Prabhupada took birth. But it was 80 years later, when Prabhupada was 70, that he actually started that journey. And this yearning that Bhaktivinoda Thakur, well, of course he says that it will happen, but then he says, when will it happen? So he says it will happen, but he wants to know when will it happen. So when will it be that, you know, the English, the French, the German, the Americans, the Russians, etc., will be out on Harinam Sankirtan on the streets and towns of their countries? Well, that all started in 1965, and by 1977, and what to speak of today, literally all of these cities and countries, they're all going out on Harinam together. So yeah, just all, for me, all just incredible stuff that these devotees are all predicting that this would happen. That this would happen. None of them name Srila Prabhupada. That's a specific thing. But they're all predicting that this will happen. Krishna consciousness will, first off, rise in the Indian subcontinent, and then from there it will spread out throughout the entire world. So Bhakti Devi Radharani was predicting this. The Namalvars from South India were predicting this thousands of years ago. And then we have Lord Chaitanya predicting it 500 years ago. Then we have Bhaktivinoda Thakur predicting it, 100 odd years ago, whatever it is like that. And then it actually came to pass. All because of Srila Prabhupada. So he's not named, but he has done all of the things that these predictions are stating. Keith Prabhu, thank you.
And then I went to my uncle and he said, have you thought about what you're going to say in the letter? And I said, well, not really, I'm trying to think about it, but I thought I might say this. And he goes, no, you can't say that. And then I come in here and the Ghosh says, remember, it's a letter of appreciation and meditation. So that's definitely what's all done. I just want to give you an update, a couple of things. Student life is going really, really well. It's like fantastic. This year, Malati, the Glassie's got involved. She originally asked me to run the program, and now she's skipped the schedule, and she's getting involved, and she's running 3 nights a week. And she's helped out on the bike, totally national fire through this lovely girl. And the food I'm out there serving sweet and cheese sandwiches 3 months a week. On the kitchen boy, Joe Pablo, and Jai Jagalan. He's been fantastic, just teaching me all sorts of stuff about Bosnian culture and everything stuff. And you can be cantankerous, but like, I love it. And we have the crack. And he makes delicious halibut every week, which some people will come only just for his halibut, his tea, probably GT. And he's taught Libor, young Libor, how to make the halibut. Libor is fantastic. He joins the semolina flour every week, and the dal so that we can make the kitchen. And he started to make the halibut on Saturdays as well. So we make some Friday for the Saturday. And people have told me that it's better than JJ's, but JJ says what Libor makes is national halibut semolina, so I don't know. We've also been helped usually by Tim and Shan who do all the accounts, make sure that everything's above board. And by Yashua is all the cutlery and all the spoons and bowls and plates. Jivan Roar is all the vegetables and things like that. Manu is the direction and shows where we're going on. And then this year the program's been able to attract sponsorships. Now we're getting €1,000 a week, which is just incredible. And I think that only maybe that's it. And that's allowed us to grow the program. It's just great. Now we're averaging about 1,500 plates a week. And we've done 40,000 plates of facades this year. Or sorry, 27 this year. And 40,000 in total. Yeah, so we've done 40,000 plates in total, 27,000 plates this year, and it's all because of you. It's just fantastic just to see people they light up and they're queuing and they're slow to light together, and it's all because of you. Fair play to you. I was just talking about it now, so it's good crack doing it, but like talk of you, and obviously you've done so much, but that's just one small part of everything that I belong with. I'm going to stop because I want to start swearing and I'm going to. Thank you very much. I will.
John.
Thank you, Keith.
Who else would like to say a few words?
Please do. Give it up for John.
Krishna Bhutale Srimati Swami Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravayi Prasana Nirvishesha Shankyamari Bhakshata Doshatamani. Dear Srila Prabhupada, thank you so much for accepting me within your family, because that is the reason today I am here where I am, because without which I could have drowned somewhere without even knowing the seriousness of it. So I would really thank you, and it's a in depth which I cannot repay. So it's an eternal depth and gratitude which I have to pay, and I'm happy to bear it. And from your teachings I understood the 4 things which sounded so nice, but it's a lifetime to prepare for. Like purity is the basis, purity is the force. So it's like, with the purity which you had, that was the reason that many people's life was moved, and that was the reason you could start a whole movement. No need to say about how you were created by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself, that you will be coming up to spread this Sankirtan movement. As well as books are the basis. No need to say much, because you strived so hard so that you can print the books, which was the order of your spiritual master. That your Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj used to say that if you get money, better to print books than to bring some neophyte devotees or build some temples. So that was the thing you took to your heart. Then you also said that preaching is the essence, because you always insisted that this is a preaching movement. So you wanted that everybody reaches out to each and every other soul, and
because it's a Sankirtan movement, so that everybody reaches us out, so that everybody lifts each other and lift each other, so that we can progress together. And lastly, utility is the principle. Like many people, when you came to the West, used to question that how are you using airplanes and all those kind of cars and facilities, while you are saying renunciation is the main thing we need to do. So you properly preach the principle of utility is the principle, just like your Guru Maharaj also did, and which we call the Sukta Vairagya. So you know the art of using everything for Krishna's service, because you are so purely determined to serve the Lord for His pleasure. And you had so much conviction, like while I was reading your Leelamrit, I could see that there was so much conviction within you, that even after getting so much rejections while distributing back to Godhead, like if you're writing letters to the politicians and leaders of India, still you never got replies back, but you simply did as if it was goodwill out of concern, so that if they hear, they might be delivered. Then there was no support from anybody for thinking of back to Godhead or even publishing your books. And many people doubted you, that already there were so many acharyas who have printed and written corpus over your writing, but still you were convinced, because once when you were asked by one of the disciples, you said that I was never alone in the process. My Guru Maharaj and Krishna was always there with me. So that was there with me, and that kept you with endeavoring with enthusiasm, that you were convinced of doing this. And you came to the place of stay, wherever you were, either Delhi or anywhere, when there were so many rejections, but still, as soon as you came, you just immediately started writing and translating books, especially Srimad Bhagavatam, because you said many times that this is the lifetime of preparation for the mission of my Guru Maharaj. So that much amount of dedication was there. Like you used to say that in second chapter 48th verse, Mr. Lavishwan Chakravarti Thakur used to say that one must give his life and soul for his spiritual master's instruction. You showed it by your example, and that was your conviction. And one thing which moved me was, because I also felt it in my life happening, that whoever reads my books, you said once, whoever reads my books seriously, he will understand the value of spirituality and get serious about Krishna consciousness. And I was fortunate somehow that in association of your devotees, I read many of your books, still many are left. I couldn't complete your books, but still how much ever I have read, I could really, that created a conviction that Krishna consciousness is important and is the only main goal I need to have in my life. And that is the power of your books. You spend day and night for writing them, you are dictating and many of those, and I realized myself, just because I had a little bit of consistency, but because of association of devotees, I could understand books better, and I can see how much valuable thing you have given for all of us. And that's, I can really feel that when it said Chakshudan Dilo Jai Janve Janve Prabhu Sari Om Agyanati Mirandasa. So all these things really matters, because I can see that whoever comes in touch with their books, their life changes, because the whole perspective of that person changes. Just like myself, I would have drowned somewhere, but because of you, I'm here. If I look 5 years back, I couldn't imagine I'm here, where I am now. So it is all because of your books and because of the association which you have created as is Interactive Society for Krishna Consciousness. Like Science of Self-Realization, Perfect Question, Perfect Answers, and there are some of many other epic books which I'm never tired of reading, because all the conversation which you have, they give a lot of context, and many of the essays from Back to Godhead which you have written while you were preaching in India, they had so much, you gave so much into it that you just wanted to convince people about Krishna consciousness. So that had a deeper impact in me to make me realize my situation. And you used to say that take risk for Krishna. And in Nectar of Instruction, you said in one of the purpose that endeavor means, enthusiasm means endeavor but with intelligence. And I can say that when I endeavor with little bit of intelligence, I can see how Krishna reciprocates and reveals it to me. So I can realize that why you used to say devotional service, why service is important, because when we serve in devotional association, the change happens, because then Krishna reciprocates. And there are so many things I can say. Like one of the things is while preparing Srimad Bhagavatam, purpose. So you refer to almost all of the Acharya's purpose. Srila Usama Chakravarti Thakur, Srila Sridhar Swami, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, Srila Thakur, and many of those. And based on those, you used to write your purpose, final purpose, ensuring that all the nectar is there. And many times you are misunderstood that you gave only the basics, because that's that's the specialty of an acharya, that he gives it in simple way so that everything is accessible to everybody. But sometimes it's misunderstood that you didn't give everything. But there are many instances where your senior devotees and disciples have revealed that many of your simple teachings, like your from time immemorial, was actually coming from the purpose of Sri Jiva Goswami. So you are given so much in a so simple way. So it was all because of your glorious contribution for us. And lastly, you used to say that your only concern about your disciples was that they don't fear Maya. So even I have felt that whenever I used to get proud, obviously I used to get stuck, and then realize that how much mistake I did by believing in myself. So I really pray to your lotus feet of you and your disciples and senior devotees here, so that by their mercy I may become more humble and more surrendered in the service of lordships and to your mission, so that I can become of some use. So please keep me guiding under your shelter to all the devotees and to you, Srila Prabhupada. Thank you. Let me Guru Srila Prabhupada.
Yeah, everybody will be happy. Very nice. And actually, just to quote Srila Prabhupada, supporting one of the things that you said about him never being alone and following instructions. So one time in a conversation, a devotee asked Srila Prabhupada, he said, "We can understand all of your instructions simply by reading your books." And Prabhupada says, "Yes. Anyway, follow the instruction. That is required. Follow the instruction. Wherever you remain, it doesn't matter. You are secure." Which is really beautiful, because in one sense, all of us are seeking security in life. That sense that we're secure, that we're protected. We have that ashraya of these wonderful personalities. So wherever you remain, it doesn't matter. You are secure if you follow instruction. Then you are secure anywhere. It doesn't matter. Just like I told you before, that I saw my Guru Maharaj not more than 10 days in my life. So Prabhupada only spent no more than 10 days in total, in the physical presence of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. But because I followed his instruction, I was secure, I was protected. I was a grihasta, a married person. I never lived in the temple. So many godbrothers recommended he should be in charge of this temple, that temple, and Guru Maharaj said, "No, better he lives outside. That is good, and he will do what is needed in due course of time." So again, it's like that's directly about Srila Prabhupada. That's his godbrothers talking to their spiritual master, the same spiritual master, and their spiritual master saying, "Better he lives outside. That's okay. He will do what is needed in due course of time." But anyway, Prabhupada is saying he was never alone. He only had 10 days of physical association. In Krishna consciousness, we understand there's two types of association: physical association, which is called Vani, and association through instruction, which is called Vani. Anytime this subject came up about physical association and association through instruction, Srila Prabhupada always said, Vani is not important. Vapu is not important. Physical association is not important. What's important is Vani, the instruction. And even we can understand that just from a simple logistical, practical point of view. That generally speaking, when we take initiation, our spiritual master is older than us. It's just a natural kind, just like your father is older than you. So your spiritual master is always going to leave this world, or nearly always going to leave this world before we leave this world. So if we're exclusively dependent on physical association, it's simply not going to work, because when our spiritual master leaves, we're going to be like little babies wondering what we're going to do. So Prabhupada always emphasized the most important type of association is the value, the instruction. Okay, who else now would like to say a few words of appreciation? Jai, Kaushal, Prabhu, Ki.
Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki
Jai.
Om Agyanti Mirandasya Jnanandina Srila Prabhupada Namo Shravaya Krishna Krishnaya Vikaleshna Kirti Mirandasya Namaste Saraswati My dear Srila Prabhupada, I would like to thank you for giving me the ultimate goal and the real and the purest knowledge of Krishna consciousness. It's been a decade that you have given this ignorant fool shelter in your big family. I still think every day that what kind of pious activities I have done in my previous life that I got your mercy. Your compassion and mercy is greater than all the oceans, which is still allowing me to continue my journey of Krishna consciousness after my offenses. My dear Srila Prabhupada, by your words, you have enlightened the ignorance from all the living entities whoever takes its shelter. Prabhupada, you didn't just create a ISKCON family, but you have given us the whole ecosystem in which if one just have intent of knowing God will be facilitated with all the tools of achieving it. Srila Prabhupada, I just want to recall one of your interview discussing about whether God exists or not, in which the interviewer asked to you, what if in the last moment of your life, if you come to know that God doesn't exist, your life activities will go in vain. On that, Srila Prabhupada, you replied, let's for time being assuming that God doesn't exist. Still we have celebrated our life by fullest, by dancing, singing, eating delicious food with wonderful association. But what if you come to know God exists, your whole life will go in vain with all the sinful activities reaction. By this we understand that you have given us such a simple process with such clarity to come closer to Krishna that the yogis who do years of austerity couldn't achieve it. Srila Prabhupada, you have given us all the knowledge of scripture by explaining 9 processes of bhakti, Shravana, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Pada Sivanam, Dasyam, Pujana, Sakujana, Atma, Nivedana, Govinda Dasa Vilasha. By practicing which we can advance in 9 stages of bhakti and achieve the prema bhakti of Shri Radha Krishna. On the most auspicious day of your appearance, I beg on your lotus feet for the mercy so that I can be a small instrument to serve the mission of Lord Chaitanya by practicing the Krishna consciousness process sincerely and spreading the holy name of Shri Radha Govinji and Panchatattva. Thank you so much, Srila Prabhupada, for everything. Srila Prabhupada ki
Jai. Thank you, Kaushal Prabhu. Thank you very much. Who would next like to express them? Amkat Prabhu. I guess we can bring the microphone to Amkat.
My dear Prabhupada, please accept my humble obeisances. In fact, when I was in London in 1961 to 66, I missed you on your journey to London in 1966 because I've come to Dublin to study. I thought would have been initiated there. Anyway, going back, we're also grateful to you for having translated the Vedic culture, which was written in Sanskrit, to English. That made access to the Vedic culture, Vedic literatures, available to the majority of the people. I think 80% or 70% of the people in the world speak English. It made that, and wherever your devotees went, the local people interpreted the Bhagavad Gita and the literature in their own languages, which helps. And that helped. But there are many things I want to say, but I'll just touch on a few things. With your translation of the Vedic literature into English, you have actually given us Sanatana Dharma, which is a way of life. and you also passed on to us the instructions of what we should do and to chant, and also to surrender unto the lotus feet, unto the lotus of the Guru Maharaj. And I have to say one more thing, that looking at the different countries in the world, just take one or two countries. Africa has 54 countries. Already, 27 of those countries are practicing Hinduism, and it's increasing. And recently they just found in Saudi Arabia, it was the statue of Shiva, which was 8,000 years old. And now the Saudi government is trying to latch onto that and try to introduce Hinduism. And many countries, these relics were found. And at the moment in Italy, in Italy there are 200,000 followers of Hinduism, of the Vedic culture. Italy is a staunch Catholic country, yet the great inroads have been made. But people forget that the three Brahminical religions, Abrahamic religion only began 3,500 years ago. And prior to that, all the kings of India ruled the country. But having said that, we're ever so grateful to Bhakti Vinoda Saraswati Gaura and his son Bhakti Siddhanta, who said to Prabhupada that your English is good, your command of your knowledge is very good, and we need you to pass on that knowledge to the West. And that was said to Prabhupada in 1922. And that, from there on, he eventually stayed in Vrindavan for a good while, where he was translating the Vedic literature. Then in 1965 he left Vrindavan to go to America. When he went to Australia, one devotee said, "Why did you not come to Australia first?" He said, "Because you didn't send me a ticket to come to Australia. If you sent me a ticket to come to Australia, I would have come to Australia. There was no need for me to go to America." And that's how I ended up in Boston with a truckload of books. And that's the beginning of the whole scenario here. And with the help of the American devotees, he was able to send them to various parts of the world where each of his disciples spread the message of Krishna consciousness. That was the start of it. And then at one incident, when two devotees were returning from India to go back to America, they each said to themselves, "Why don't we go to Mauritius on our way to America?" And when we went to Mauritius, they found that Mauritius was the most ideal country to introduce Krishna consciousness. And then Prabhupada went there, and they found that Mauritius would have been the ideal country, would have been the most ideal country to become a Hindu or a Krishna conscious country. And once when I was traveling from Mexico to Caracas on the plane, he had himself and two other devotees, and they were eating corn. And the stewardess came up and said, "What are you eating?" And she picked up a handful of them and started it. And she really enjoyed it. And she said, "Who are you, by the way?" And they said, "But what do you want? What do you like?" And he brought them 3 glasses of, I think it was orange. And 10 years later, when the devotees were traveling in the Amazon forest, they came to a village, and in the village, they went to all the houses, and in the village was this stewardess who opened her house with all the pictures of Krishna and the other devotees. And they said, "Please come." And they were surprised to hear. She said to them, Hare Krishna. And when they walked in, they were really surprised to find that every wall, inch of the wall, was covered with pictures of devotees and Hare Krishna and Prabhupada and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and other important, and Krishna and so forth. So bit by bit, the movement started to spread. But on the way, they had a lot of difficulties. In one country, I think it's Moldova, Russia, where the people were put in prison. Right? And the prisoners had no peaceful chance. So what they did, when they got the bread and water, they were only fed with bread and water, and they decided they'll soak the bread in water and make little beads of them so that they can chant on these beads. That's how bad the Russians were. Well, that was the position at the time. And they had undergone many hardships on the way. And quite a few of our devotees have given their life to furthering the Hare Krishna movement. And then again, the other devotees went to other countries. They also opened up centers. And usually Prabhupada will wait for 6 months until it was established. The center was established, and then they go there and give them a talk. And one day, he went to a little town of Los Angeles, little town. And this devotee rented a room. And he entertained Prabhupada. The reason why he went there was there was a university there. And he said he'll go and preach in the lunch break, which he did. He invited many of them to come to his house. And when nobody came, Prabhupada said to the devotee, don't worry, there are 4 walls here. Preach to the 4 walls, and eventually they will come. And although this journey has been a long and a hard journey, eventually I think we're on a winning streak at the moment. And we thank you, Prabhupada, for helping us, not only for showing us or enlightening us in Sanatana Dharma, not only in giving us the regulative principles, but also regulative principles. Anyway, and from there on, the whole movement spread. And we thank you very much, Srila Prabhupada, for helping us and guiding us in our endeavor to become Krishna conscious. Thank you again.
Jai Prabhu, thank you very much. And just to reflect on that point about helping Srila Prabhupada to spread the movement, Prabhupada wrote a letter in 1973 to a devotee who's still with us today. His name is Rameshwara Prabhu, and he was leading the BBT, or the book distribution efforts in America. And he wrote this book, Prabhupada wrote this letter in 1973 after he had heard some of the efforts of the devotees in Los Angeles for distributing the books. It actually, it's what we call the marathon, the Prabhupada Marathon now, which takes place in December. It was as a result of what happened in Los Angeles in the early 70s that the marathon essentially started by accident. The devotees just found that shops didn't close in the period leading up to Christmas, so devotees continued distributing, and they just found that in that Christmas mood that people were just much more open, and loads of books were going out, and Rameshwar was reporting this to Srila Prabhupada, and Srila Prabhupada was in ecstasy, and he was thinking, this is such wonderful. So this is what he wrote, Prabhupada. He wrote, "My dear boys and girls, you are working so hard for broadcasting the glories of Lord Krishna's lotus feet. And thus my Guru Maharaj, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, will be so pleased upon you. Now, this next sentence I'm going to read, and I have to admit, you know, when I first came across this letter, it kind of made me quite emotional. Because this next sentence I'm going to read that Prabhupada's writing, we have to understand it in the context that, is there a more merciful personality? I just threw out, for those who've been here since the beginning, I've just been reading you different predictions from, you know, thousands of years ago, hundreds of years ago, from wonderful personalities, incarnations of Krishna, as well as wonderful devotees, predicting someone is going to come and do what Prabhupada did. So in that sense, is there any more merciful a person than Srila Prabhupada? You can't really imagine that there's anyone more compassionate and more merciful than him. Yet this is what he writes. So I'll read it all again now, straight through. My dear boys and girls, you are working so hard for broadcasting the glories of Lord Krishna's lotus feet, and thus my Guru Maharaj, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, will be so pleased upon you. Certainly my Guru Maharaj will bestow his blessings on you thousands of times more than me, and that is my great satisfaction. So, this personality who's displayed this unlimited mercy is now telling his disciples that whatever mercy and blessings and good wishes, etc., I can give to you, my Guru Maharaj is going to give it to you 1,000-fold. You know, and when the devotees read this, I talked to Rameshwar about this. He said when the devotees heard this and he read this letter to them, they were just, they didn't know how to, they were just in ecstasy, but they didn't really know how to respond, because on one level they just couldn't imagine that there's more mercy available than the mercy coming from Prabhupada. But now Prabhupada is bestowing them with this incredible benediction and boon that my Guru Maharaj is going to bestow even that mercy 1,000 times more upon all of you. So any of us that endeavor in this way to help Prabhupada in his mission, the mercy that we will receive, the fortune that we will receive as a result of that is really beyond our knowledge. It's kind of incomprehensible what will actually come to pass. Okay, thank you. So, Manager, would I say? Okay. Do you want them to come, or do you want the mic? Do you want to come over? Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Dear Srila Prabhupada, I was just listening to a talk this morning by a devotee who's explaining how this spiritual knowledge, it's a science, and it's something that you just can't force as well. And how those two things work together is that the science is given, the knowledge is given. It's not just by our efforts that we can somehow wrestle the science down and then with the knowledge of the one. It's completely the opposite actually, because we have to be very, very humble, very, very submissive in order for us to somehow qualify for this science. And the example Srila Prabhupada gave was of a woman who has just got married and immediately wanting a baby. So that doesn't happen. Even if the lady went to the delivery room and tried to have a baby, it's not going to happen like that. It takes a while. It takes some time for it to mature. for the child to mature and then to have the baby. So it's a little bit like that, I feel, in my attempts to understand the knowledge that you're bringing and to understand spiritual life. It doesn't happen quickly, for me anyway. But I think that's also the nature of it as well, from what this devotee was saying and what other devotees were also agreeing with. And so therefore you have this huge, huge, huge message, and somehow or other you're being able to keep a lot of people who were expecting to have a baby, but they didn't go through the whole pregnancy in order to have that. And because it's the reason I was saying that was because I'm only starting to see some of the reality of this truth that you're giving. And the more that I study your books, the more I see that you already have this knowledge in completion. And I'm just starting to get little glimpses of it as I go through it. So to try to estimate the magnitude of your greatness is, I forget the examples that are used, but like a time-moving entity trying to understand something great and vast. And that's what you're constantly talking about in your books. You're always talking about the universe, the truth, Krishna's in every atom, about the extent of the universe, about our position in relation to Krishna, about the living entity's position, about the position of Maya, how we can be covered, and so many of the devotees talked about that today. But I'm also just seeing how you're still here present as well today. Because this year I visited Mayapur, and it was packed. There was so many things happening, from people coming from all the countries in the world, and they were all explaining what they were doing in their various countries and how they're spreading the message of the Dharma. And yet at the same time, you can go and visit that little cottage there that you started with, a tiny little cottage, a straw cottage, when there's nothing else there. And now Mayapur is full. There's so many things happening, and it's increasing. It's constantly increasing. So a lot of times spiritual systems start and then they leave when the founder leaves. But because you're still present, it's expanding more and more and more. And then the same thing happened this year with the Jagannath Rath Yatra. We had 3 Rath Yatras, Belfast, Dublin and Cork. And they all had their own unique flavour. But the power of Rath Yatra, and this is quite interesting because we're trying to just say that by chanting Hare Krishna we can change the world, But actually that is the reality, because nothing else seems to be able to change the world. It just seems to be getting more and more darker and more covered, and very little that I can see. And some people can see the greater vision than I have. But I see that there's a deterioration, except through the holy name. And I have to say that I experienced that very, very strongly this year in the 3 Rath Yatras that we got. Because the devotees were chanting so powerfully that I actually saw the greatness that we're achieving a force which is beyond nature, which is in the spiritual dimension. And it's only with the spiritual dimension can things actually change. And again, this is the magnitude of your message. It's like, you have all these governments, the United Nations, all around the world, all these people trying to change things for the better, and they're not achieving anything. They're only getting more and more entangled. And you had the boldness to assert that and now to prove that. At the chanting of the holy name as you following your spiritual masters and Lord Chaitanya, all the way back to Krishna, that has the God potency. So just like I'm saying, I'm only starting very early on. I'm only starting to get a glimpse of your greatness. So that again, I suppose, is my prayer to just don't let me fall in this situation. I mean, it's taken me all this struggle to try to get to some little semblance to know what you're doing, but to please please keep it secure. I know several devotees have mentioned that today. I know Gary mentioned it, some of the devotees about being, not being afraid of Maya. But this is really, really true, because this is the force that we're actually dealing with here. It's a very powerful, and I might say, a dark force. And we're trying to actually, we don't even understand the magnitude of this dark force, because we can hardly even grasp that as well. But somehow or other I'm getting this little glimpse, and then I see that the greatness of how you're coming to actually attack. What does the prophet say? It's a declaring war on material energy. You're actually attacking this dark force everywhere at all times. So, therefore, we have to realize the position of being completely dependent on your mercy, because after this time, it's just so tiny, the realization, but it's so tangible as well. It's so powerful. And so therefore, that dependence is so necessary. Guru mentioned it in the class that we're so dependent. The last thing he said was like a very prophetic kind of message that we have to be so dependent on Krishna and on our spiritual master. And Srila Prabhupada will say this, but I conclude with was talking about the greatness of the message throughout all the incredible knowledge about the material world, the spiritual world, and beyond. But then comes Krishna, the most incredible personality. If anyone had told me anything about Krishna before, I wouldn't, just would have thought it was some sort of mythology, basically. But having to come in contact with your message and how you're revealing the power of Krishna, of God, in his most loving features, his most merciful features, and in his most beautiful feature, the Krishna, that this God, that's totally got my vote. I'm not going for anything less, just when you're telling me about how amazing Krishna is. So that's what lies ahead. If we learn more and more about Krishna and about Krishna's qualities, his pastimes, starting with the name, form of Krishna, and then the qualities and the pastimes. And then a verse which we quoted a lot yesterday. One who understands the nature of my appearance and activities does not take his birth again in this world. So may Srila Prabhupada please continue to bless us with all of this knowledge, all of this mercy, and bless us with Krishna, because it's allowing us to make some little advancement in this world. Hare Krishna.
Thanks, man. Oops. Yeah, nice point about us all being exclusively dependent on the mercy of Krishna and, of course, Srila Prabhupada. I also noticed at the beginning, Manu Guru recently became a grandfather. He seemed to, sounds like you were wanting that to happen quicker than it actually happened. maybe the next one will come more quickly. I'd like, if it's okay now, because we're coming towards the end, to read my own offering this year to Srila Prabhupada, which I'll read from the Vyasa Puja book. Vyasapuja.com, just to let you know, Vyasapuja.com, and you can get access to all the hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds. It is beautiful, that, isn't it? Every single year we produce a Vyasa Puja book. I'm not sure exactly how many offerings are in it. I can check, but I'm not sure exactly off the top of my head. But I think we're, well in excess of 500 offerings. And by the way, we would get many, many more. We have to limit it because we do actually print this book as a hard copy book. And you just can't have it unlimited, so it's limited to certain categories, otherwise it becomes... But I just find it really, really interesting that Prabhupada has left us 48 years ago, and every single year we're producing a Vyasa Puja book, and we cannot accommodate all the offerings that devotees want to put into that book 48 years after the personality has left. That is such an incredible testimony to the mark that he made And of course the mark that Srila Prabhupada made is just not a material mark, like so many wonderful material personalities, whether they be Gandhi or Nelson Mandela or whoever your choice may be. But he made this spiritual mark, something that's so much harder to actually achieve because we're not in the spiritual world, we're in the material world. So all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Dear Srila Prabhupada, please accept my humble obeisances at your lotus feet. I heard a famous quote being used the other day, and it made me think of you, albeit I think we need to update that quote a little. The quote being, never before was so much owed by so many to so few. My proposed update would be, never before was so much owed by so many to just one single person, you, Srila Prabhupada. As my life in this body of ever-increasing misery accelerates into its inevitable home straight, I remain ever curious as to why the whole world of more or less 8 billion people are not offering an annual Vyasa Puja homage to you, Srila Prabhupada. While the fundamental problems of this material world remain a constant, birth, death, old age and disease, the Adhyatmic, Adhibautic and Adhidevic backup miseries seem ever more prominent and ever more intense. Indeed, it is as if they are operating on steroids at this point in time. So with Adhyatmika, mental health issues are snowballing at a rate we have never even come close to before. Then Adhibautic, aside from the ever-increasing conflicts in this world, and particularly the increased viciousness of those conflicts, we only have to consider the cathedral of hate that is perhaps embodied by social media. That cathedral's spire rises higher than any physical spire we can imagine. The social media cathedral is in many ways the modern day spiritual master. Lastly, Adhidevic. These days it seems we are all quite nervous as to whether our area of the world will be hit by the next flood, wildfires, storm winds like never before, or drought. When I was a teenager in the late 70s, I still held grandiose ideas of having a great life in this world, completing studies, getting a job, settling down, and then retiring as early as possible to relax and have a good time. However, when I was blessed to receive the science of self-realization, I realized my grandiose ideas were for the birds. These days, though, for anyone with half a brain, such grandiose ideas must surely be daft in the extreme. With all that is going on now, people should be flocking to our temples, and particularly your books, in droves, as the world has entered a more chaotic state than ever before, at least in my lifetime. Furthermore, it is clear that this chaotic downward spiral the world is on has only just begun. For us, your followers and aspiring servants, this surely presents a wonderful opportunity for us to offer all the souls in this world the solution to all the uncertainty and chaos. That solution, of course, is an ever-constant reality, Krishna consciousness. As well as being surprised that everyone is not offering you a homage every year, it also surprises me that everyone who is fortunate enough to come across one of your books does not automatically accept your words as truth without a second thought. For those who do struggle to accept your words as truth, let them read this purport you wrote in 1976, so about 50 years ago. As we read it, we can understand that what you were writing 50 years ago could easily be a report on precisely what is going on in the world today. The word prophet tends to be associated with other religious traditions, but in the context of prophesying or predicting the future, you, Srila Prabhupada, sit head and shoulders above all others. So, in 1976, you wrote, and this is quoting Prabhupada from a purport in the 8th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Thus, Vinjavali, Bali Maharaj's intelligent wife, prayed that her husband be released by the Lord's causeless mercy. Otherwise, Bali Maharaj was nothing but a shameless demon, specifically described as Trakjar Lias Twad Avaropita Katavada, a foolish person claiming proprietorship over the property of the Supreme Person. In the present age, Kali Yuga, the number of such shameless men who are agnostics, disbelieving in the existence of God, has increased. Trying to defy the authority of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, so-called scientists, philosophers, and politicians manufacture plans and schemes for the destruction of the world. They cannot do anything good for this world. And unfortunately, because of Kali Yuga, they have plunged the affairs of the world into mismanagement. Thus, there is a great need for the Krishna consciousness movement for the benefit of innocent people who are being carried away by such propaganda of these demons. If the present status quo is allowed to continue, people will certainly suffer more and more under the leadership of these demoniac agnostics. End of quote. Srila Prabhupada, thank you. Thank you for being so kind as to bless the existence of this fallen soul with the treasure of transcendental knowledge, the creme de la creme of route maps out of this material world, falling at your feet and hoping to be your eternal servant, Pragoshdas. So again, vyasapuja.com, and you can have access to all these offerings for your reading pleasure, which will take quite a while because there's many, many offerings in there. Manabru, I think we're ready for Aarti now. We're just about a few minutes late. Pushpanjali, yeah. Okay. So now we're going to do Pushpanjali, which is a...
Are we going ahead for Pushpanjali because few other devotees also wants to speak?
Well, yeah, well, that's up to you, Prabhu, in terms of timing.
That's what we had earlier, we're here since 3 o'clock.
Well, 2:30.
Okay, good. We will move ahead for Pushpanjali.
I mean, what could happen is after Prasadam, devotees could still stay and continue with the offerings if they so desire. It's a little bit like what I was just saying about trying to get all the offerings. We can't get all the offerings into the Vyasa Puja book, there's just too many. That's why we're doing it online this year also, because we can actually add additional offerings, etc. But just in the same way that we can't get all the offerings into the book, it's also difficult at the programs to get everyone's offering. But I am inclined, given Sugati Prabhu's sort of role, to just ask him to make his offering. But I don't think we can go beyond that.
No, Prabhuji, I would prefer if we can give chance to maybe others.
Yeah, well...
Okay.
Maybe we can have Prabhuji 10-15 minutes more.
Yeah.
And then we can have Pushpanjali and then Aarti.
Okay, let's do that.
Okay. So who else is wanting to say a few words of appreciation?
Niladri Prabhu, Niladri Nath Prabhuji and Krishna. Because they were preparing prasad.
Okay, no problem. Thank you, Niladri.
Hare Krishna everyone. Hare Krishna everyone. Om Jnana Viranda Sanyana Jana Sabhakaya Satsvana Satyana Tasmai Shri Guru. Om Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vistara Vipaya Satyana Privedanta Samantanate. Om Sisa Satyana Guru Vam Prasad Yeah, so today actually I'm not that qualified to say something for Prabhupada, but I just trying to explain, from my view, what I understood who Prabhupada is. So in 2022, when I came to Dublin, before that I was following Krishna consciousness, but I was not that associated with ISKCON. So then when I came to Dublin temple, the Prabhupada's photo was this side. So when I used to come, I just stare at him and say, I didn't say anything, but I just stare at him and the Lord Jagannath, who is from Puri. So I used to stare at them. But gradually after few days or few months, I would say, I get one strong desire, I should follow ISKCON and I should get initiated. So then I didn't know anyone up here, so my brother-in-law, who was associated with ISKCON, so I talked to him. he told you are taking very early decision. So before you know ISKCON or get initiated, first know who Prabhupada is. Start reading his books or start listening his lectures. So then I started listening to his lectures, and then after few days, I got a strong desire also I should start chanting, and I got the right association. So, and then I started 16 round of chanting. So what I felt, like if by seeing the picture of Prabhupada, like if one person is getting so motivated and like spiritually, so then I felt like how fortunate those souls could be who directly or physically met Prabhupada, and that's how the Krishna consciousness spread throughout. So I'm praying to like Srila Prabhupada on his lotus feet, so he can bless us, so that we can establish our like full-fledged temple in Dublin, so that more and more devotees come and like spread Krishna consciousness. Thank you. Hari Bol.
Insignificant to glorify Prabhupada, but I just try to share the mercy that I have been receiving from Prabhupada and his disciples. So I was just meditating like how Maya is so very powerful. It pulls us out from bhakti in many ways that we can even imagine. But Prabhupada has not just given temples, books, he has given a system wherein wherever you are in any part of the world will be pulled towards Krishna. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Kaunteya Pratijana Dinami Bhakta Pranasham. So my devotees will never perish. Prabhupada built a system where even though somebody who is once attracted, even if he wants to go away, Prabhupada's system that like temples, Mangalarti, programs, devotees, they are very compassionate. They always pull us back to Krishna again and again. So that has, without which I can't even imagine chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, even taking darshan, coming so far from India here. It would have been impossible without Prabhupada's mercy. That's one of the great gratitude that I have for Prabhupada. Other than that, I was today morning when singing Guru Puja, I was just meditating. The entire shloka, that Kirtan that Narottam Das Thakur has written, Shri Guru Charana Padma, Tu Eveja Shukru, every word is very apt for Srila Prabhupada. Without Prabhupada's mercy, we would have not, although we are inspired from different gurus, even within ISKCON, but Prabhupada is like default Shiksha Guru for everybody who has been inspiring us. So I pray Prabhupada that he blesses more me and everyone here to become more and more devoted to Krishna. I just want to end with one last thing, that what inspired me with entire Prabhupada. I've been Krishna consciousness 10 plus years, but when I was very young, I don't know who Prabhupada is, what ISKCON is. I visited one Janmashtami program like this. There are all dance programs, kirtans, classes and all those things on the stage. And in one corner, there was Prabhupada speaking like this. And I don't know who Prabhupada is at that point of time. There was one devotee who was standing beside the stage. He was not even visible, he was somewhere beside. And he was doing chamara for all 4 hours of the program, entire program. Nobody is seeing him, or he is not visible to anybody. I was like, who is this person? I mean, like, they would have even just kept a fan and just went on this. That devotee who is doing chamara might have felt so much inspired, that person, a person who is not living anymore in this planet. Somebody he wants to personally serve. that intrigued me, who is this person, I wanted to know. And then more and more I learned about Prabhupada, more and more I heard about Prabhupada and his mercy. That only inspired me more to move forward in life. So, thank you very much for this.
Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Yes, and that's similar to the Vyasa Puja book that Prabhupada has left 48 years, but we're still every year having wonderful offerings for him. So yeah, those devotees who do that selfless service and glorification of Prabhupada and pushing on his mission and knowledge about him, it's very inspiring for all of us. Thank you.
Namo Snubhadaya Krishna Vistaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Nityanamani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauranga Jai Srimati Bhasharai Destarine Jai Sri Krishna Ranya Prabhupada Sri Adita Gadara Sri Osari Gaur Bhaktivedanta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Dear Srila Prabhupada, please accept my humble obeisance at your feet. In this life, I am not that much fortunate to see him or meet him in person. But whenever you see Srila Prabhupada, whenever you see his photo here or anywhere in the world, you will feel so much affection to Srila Prabhupada that his smiling picture gives you fatherly feeling. Like when a child sees his father, he thinks, okay, I'm safe under his guidance. I'm safe when he is near me. Similarly, whenever I see Srila Prabhupada, it feels like he gives a fatherly feeling and he gives me full of tension free. Prabhupada, you once told that just hold my dhoti and follow my instruction, I will take you go back to Godhead. But Prabhupada, what I feel, even you are not letting us hold your dhoti, you are just like a fisherman. The way how fisherman he caught the fishes through his seal. In the same way, you are catching us like through your mercy, through your love, and the house which you call as a home, where entire society or entire world lives. Like you are more eager us to take back us to go back to Godhead. Prabhupada, on this special day, I wish nothing but just give me courage and strength so that I can follow your instruction and come back to Godhead. Hare Krishna.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you for those last three offerings to end the program very nicely. So now we're going to have Pushpanjali, which is offering of flowers to Srila Prabhupada. So the way that this works is we say Prabhupada Pranam mantras 3 times. So each time at the end, then we offer some flowers. So whatever amount of flowers you have in your hand, try to keep enough for the whole 3 cycles of the Pushpanjali. Oftentimes, I remember for the first 20 years of my life at Pushpanjali, I'd always run out of flowers, throwing too many at the beginning. Okay, so where are the flowers? And everything's good to go? They're already there? Okay, fantastic. So we should start distributing those flowers. Okay. So now we're just going to literally do Prabhupada's pranams? Yes, but initially for the Pushpanjali, just Prabhupada's pranams. Okay. After Pushpanjali, we'll have Guru Puja. Yeah.
Those who are at the back, please don't throw flowers from behind. You can come in front and do that. Otherwise, it will be Pushpanjali for us, not for Kopi.
It's okay, no, it's okay. I'm just wondering they're going around. I don't really want to start until people have flowers in their hands. Okay. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nityanamane Namaste Sarasvati Deve Gauda Vani Vicharane Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Ashtata Desha Tarine Pushpanjali 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 Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namane Namaste Sarasvati Deve Gauda Vani Pacharane Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Ashtata Desha Tarine Pushpanjali 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 Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namane Namaste Sarasvati Deve Gauda Vani Pacharane Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Ashtata Deshatarine Pushpanjali 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 Srila Prabhupada Ki Srila Prabhupada's Vyasa Puja ceremony Ki Go Premanandi Jai Srila Prabhupada Ki We're singing Guru Puja.
Okay, I'm running upside down.
How many here? So we're just going to now have Guru Puja, which is the prayers to the spiritual master. They will be sung. We will offer, while the song, the Guru Puja song is being sung, we will offer Aarti. And then after Aarti and Guru Puja, we will serve Srila Prabhupada's Transcendental Vyasa Puja Feast Ki.
That's what
Give it up, Prabhu. Give it up. Could you just hand me the laptop, please? Thank you very much. Thank you.
Come here as a dear
Shri Guru Charana Padma Shiva Kati Sadma
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,